the crystalline spires of the galactic council chamber hummed with the soft harmonics of 47 different species conducting business across the stars. Ambassador Vexstar of the hegemonic republic adjusted his translation matrix as the latest. Trade dispute resolutions scrolled across holographic displays. War had been extinct for 3 millennia. Conflict now meant economic sanctions, diplomatic pressure, and carefully worded censures that carried the weight of civilized disapproval. The Confederation governed through consensus, their fleets serving as symbols of unity rather than instruments of destruction. Energy weapons came equipped with mandatory power limiters, ensuring battles remained bloodless demonstrations of technological superiority. Ship designs prioritized defense and deterrence, their sleek hulls housing diplomatic suites alongside shield generators. The very concept of planetary bombardment existed only in historical archives. A barbaric practice outlawed by the Covenant of Civilized Conduct, Vexstar's attention shifted to the matter at hand. The human question. 50 years had passed since first contact with a primitive species inhabiting the third planet of an unremarkable yellow star. Their representatives had appeared eager, almost desperate, to join galactic society. They spoke of unity, cooperation, and mutual benefit with the enthusiasm of children discovering fire. The Council had been patient, offering limited trade agreements and cultural exchanges while humanity demonstrated its readiness. For true civilization, that readiness had never come. Human history read like a catalog of violence stretching back millennia. They had weaponized everything from metal fragments to atomic energy, turning tools into instruments of mass destruction. Their military doctrine emphasized overwhelming force rather than surgical precision. Where civilized species developed defensive technologies, humans perfected the art of killing efficiently. Their primitive vessels carried enough firepower to level cities, lacking even basic humanitarian protocols. Ambassador Cathanal of the Ethereal Collective had reviewed the psychological profiles extensively. Of aggression, territorial expansion, and resource competition that marked them as fundamentally incompatible with peaceful coexistence. Their entertainment glorified warfare. Their literature celebrated conquest. Their religions promised violence as divine mandate. Every cultural indicator screamed danger to established galactic order. The latest diplomatic session had ended predictably. Human Ambassador Chen had presented their final petition for full membership, outlining technological contributions and strategic partnerships they could offer. The proposal was comprehensive, even impressive by primitive standards, but the underlying threat remained unchanged. Species whose first instinct was violence. Seeking access to advanced weapons and military intelligence, Vexstar had delivered the Council's unanimous decision with ceremonial gravity. Humanities. Application was denied indefinitely. Trade relations would continue under strict limitations. Military technology transfers remained absolutely forbidden. Cultural exchanges could proceed only under extensive monitoring. The decision was final, non-negotiable, based on overwhelming evidence of human unsuitability for civilized society. Chen had listened in perfect silence, his face revealing nothing of the primitive emotion surely raging beneath. Formal rejection concluded, he had simply stood, gathered his materials, and spoken words that would echo through history. You've made your choice, we'll make ours. His delegation had departed immediately, refusing all attempts at clarification or continued dialogue. The 30-day ultimatum that followed was treated as a curiosity rather than a threat. Humans demanded immediate reversal of the membership. Decision: threatening alternative measures if the Council remained intransigent. The very concept was absurd. A single primitive world challenging 47 advanced civilizations represented delusion on an unprecedented scale. The human fleet consisted of crude chemical rockets barely capable of interplanetary travel. Their most powerful weapons were nuclear devices that would barely scratch modern defensive systems. As the deadline approached, long-range sensors detected nothing but silence from human space. No fleet movements, no military preparations, no communications whatsoever. The quiet was so complete that some council members wondered if humanity had simply accepted reality and withdrawn from galactic affairs entirely, X-Star privately hoped. So, primitives who knew their place could be useful as manual laborers or resource extractors. Primitives who forgot their place became extinct. Sensor technician Mordith noticed the anomaly first. Deep space monitoring arrays positioned at the edge of council space registered an energy signature that made no sense. The readings suggested something massive, approaching at velocities that should have torn any known vessel apart. He recalibrated his instruments 3 times before accepting the impossible data. Streaming across his screens, the object measured 12 kilometers in length. Its power output exceeded anything in the Confederate database by orders of magnitude. Propulsion systems that primitive fusion drives had no right generating thrust coefficients that defied physics textbooks. Most disturbing of all, the signature was accelerating directly toward the Council homeworld with mathematical precision that indicated deliberate targeting rather than coincidental trajectory. Emergency protocols activated across the monitoring network. Backup sensors confirmed primary readings. Deep space telescopes swiveled toward the incoming signature, their operators expecting equipment malfunction rather than genuine contact. Instead, they found themselves staring at something that challenged their understanding of engineering possibility. The object wasn't just large, it was impossibly, threateningly, deliberately enormous. First visual contact sent shockwaves through command centers across 3 star systems. The human vessel emerged from interstellar space like a predator materializing from darkness.
Where?
Confederate ships curved gracefully through space with artistic elegance. This monstrosity cut through vacuum with brutal angularity. Every surface bristled with weapon emplacements. Armor plating thick enough to shrug off asteroid impacts covered the hull in overlapping segments. Communication arrays designed for military coordination rather than diplomatic exchange jutted from the superstructure, like mechanical spines. Admiral Zefkal of the Home Defense Fleet stared at tactical displays, showing power readings that broke his instrument's measurement capabilities. The human battleship's reactor output could power an entire planetary grid. Its propulsion system generated more thrust than his flagship's entire energy budget. Weapon systems lined the hull in configurations that violated every treaty governing civilized warfare. This wasn't exploration. This wasn't diplomacy. This was war incarnate. The ship's design philosophy became clear through detailed analysis. Human engineers had prioritized function over form, effectiveness over aesthetics. Where Confederate vessels incorporated multiple systems into elegant solutions, humans had built redundancy into redundancy. Primary weapons backed up by secondary, weapons backed up by tertiary weapons. Armor designed to absorb punishment that would vaporize conventional defenses. Power systems capable of operating at combat efficiency, even with half their components destroyed. Confederate ships served multiple purposes: exploration, diplomacy, trade, research, and defense integrated into versatile platforms. The human battleship served exactly one purpose: killing things efficiently. Every design element contributed to that singular goal. No diplomatic suites, no scientific laboratories, no cultural exchange facilities, just weapons, armor, engines, and the infrastructure necessary to support continuous combat operations across interstellar distances. Desperate communication attempts yielded only silence. Standard diplomatic frequencies received no response. Emergency broadcasting protocols went unanswered. The human vessel maintained course toward the homeworld without acknowledging Confederate existence. Long-range scans bounced off hull plating designed to defeat sensor penetration. Internal configuration remained completely unknown. Crew complement could range from hundreds to thousands. Our intentions remained equally opaque. The battleship assumed attack formation as it approached the outer system. Gun ports opened with mechanical precision. Targeting systems achieved lock on Confederate installations. Energy readings spiked as weapons charged to full capacity. Whatever the humans intended, they had arrived prepared for war. Asterisk. The first demonstration shattered 3 millennia of civilized assumptions about warfare. The human battleship selected a barren asteroid approximately the size of Council Station Theta-7, mining facility housing 12,000 workers. A weapon that fired bore no resemblance to Confederate energy systems. Instead of elegant particle beams or refined plasma bolts, humans had created something that defied classification entirely. The asteroid simply ceased to exist. No explosion, no debris field, no gradual disintegration. One moment, a solid chunk of rock and metal orbited peacefully in the outer system.
Ow.
The next moment, empty space remained where matter had been seconds before. Energy readings from the weapon discharge exceeded anything in Confederate records. The destruction was so complete that even atomic particles had been stripped from existence. Admiral Zefkal's tactical officers struggled to analyze what they had witnessed. Their instruments detected no familiar energy signatures. No plasma residue, no radiation scattering, no electromagnetic pulse. The weapon had operated on principles that Confederate science couldn't identify, much less counter. Worse still, energy readings from the human ship indicated this had been a minor discharge. The battleship's primary weapons remained untested. Long-range communication arrays crackled to life as the humans finally acknowledged Confederate presence. The voice that emerged was calm, professional, and absolutely terrifying in its matter-of-fact delivery. "Attention, Galactic Council. This is Captain Martinez of the Earth Defense Force vessel Retribution. Your pathetic attempt at civilized governance ends now." The transmission continued without pause for response. "You have 60 minutes to surrender all military assets and prepare for immediate occupation. Your governments will be dissolved. Your fleets will be scuttled. Your worlds will accept human administration. Compliance ensures minimal casualties. Resistance ensures extinction. Choose accordingly."
Oh yeah.
Intelligence reports flooded Confederate command centers as humans. Demonstrated knowledge that should have been impossible for primitive outsiders to possess. They knew Confederate fleet positions down to individual ship assignments. They had mapped defensive installations across 17 star systems. They possessed detailed files on every council member's personal security arrangements. 50 years of careful observation had yielded intelligence advantages that rendered Confederate secrecy meaningless. The 60-minute deadline triggered desperate military mobilization across the home system. Admiral Zefkal assembled his finest vessels in standard defensive formation, energy shields overlapping for maximum protection. Weapon systems synchronized for coordinated strikes, electronic warfare suites prepared to disrupt enemy targeting. 51 ships against 1. Confederate numerical superiority had to count for something. The human response was immediate and devastating. Return fire from the battleship's secondary weapons systems swept through Confederate formations like stellar wind through dust. Energy shields designed to deflect asteroid impacts collapsed instantly under weapons that treated armor as inconvenience rather than protection. Ships that had served faithfully for centuries became expanding clouds of superheated plasma. In seconds, Confederate forces managed exactly one coordinated volley before their formation disintegrated. Their most powerful weapons struck human shields and achieved nothing more than brief energy fluctuations. The battleship's defensive systems hadn't even registered strain. Meanwhile, human weapons continued their methodical destruction of everything Confederate technology had considered invincible. The battle lasted for minutes. Confederate survivors fled toward the outer system, while their comrades burned behind them. The human battleship held position above the Council homeworld. Its weapons trained on planetary shields that were already beginning to fail under systematic bombardment. 51 ships had become debris. One human vessel remained undamaged. Emergency. Evacuations began immediately as planetary defense grids collapsed under sustained human fire. The supposedly impregnable shields that had protected the Council homeworld for millennia lasted exactly 17 minutes against weapons designed by species the Confederation had dismissed as primitive. Panic spread through government complexes as officials realized their civilization's most advanced defenses were worthless against human engineering. The surrender terms arrived via direct planetary transmission, broadcast simultaneously to every communication device on the surface. Captain Martinez's voice carried the same professional tone he had used to announce humanity's arrival, as if dictating routine supply requisitions rather than the complete subjugation of galactic civilization. The Galactic Confederation is hereby dissolved. All member species will establish new governments under human oversight within 72 hours. Military vessels will report to designated coordinates for immediate scuttling. Weapons manufacturing will cease permanently. Any attempt at resistance will result in planetary sterilization. The transmission paused, allowing the weight of absolute defeat to settle across 47 worlds simultaneously. Human governors will assume administrative control of all former Confederate territories. Technology transfers to human authorities are mandatory and immediate. Resource extraction quotas will be established based on planetary capacity and strategic value. Tribute payments will ensure continued protection under the new galactic order. The clinical efficiency with which humans dismantled 3 millennia of political evolution was almost as terrifying as their military supremacy. Intelligence. Reports from across Confederate space confirmed the scope of human preparation. The battleship above the homeworld was merely the first of thousands. Human fleets were already moving towards strategic objectives throughout the galaxy. Every major population center would face occupation within weeks. Futile. It was impossible on the scale required to challenge human logistics. Species that had considered themselves the pinnacle of galactic evolution found themselves reduced to administrative districts under human management. The hegemonic republic became Sector 7. The ethereal collective was redesignated as Mining Zone. 12. The proud stellar commonwealth became human territory. 23. Names that had carried the weight of history for thousands of years disappeared into human filing systems overnight. Some member species attempted to form resistance coalitions, sending encrypted communications to organize unified opposition against human occupation. These efforts ended when human intelligence services demonstrated their ability to intercept, decode, and respond to supposedly secure transmissions faster than Confederate encryption specialists could generate them. Resistance leaders vanished. Communication networks went silent. Rebellion died before it could begin. Within 6 months, the transformation was complete. Human governors ruled from former Confederate capitals. Human military bases anchored strategic positions throughout known space. Human colonies expanded across worlds that had never seen alien occupation. The Pax Humana brought unprecedented peace to the galaxy through the simple expedient of eliminating any force capable of challenging human authority. The irony was not lost on surviving Confederate observers, the species they had rejected for excessive violence had created the most stable galactic order in recorded history. Under human rule, conflicts between member species became impossible. Trade disputes were resolved by human arbitration. Territorial disagreements ended with human verdict. War had indeed become extinct, not through civilized evolution, but through absolute dominance by beings who understood that true peace required the credible threat of overwhelming violence. Asterisk.